Last night, I took my wife out to eat. We was having a good time. Went to Walmart. Just love going to Walmart. Not. And I came home, and I was running up the stairs. I'm going thump, click up the stairs. About halfway up the stairs, I'm thinking, why am I going thump and click? And I looked down, and I had two different pairs of shoes on. So I was feeling pretty good up to that point. My wife didn't even notice I had two different shoes on. I'm talking to everybody. I'm having fun, and I'm standing there with two different shoes on. Yeah, she's probably used to it. Well, they were both my favorite pairs, so. That's true. Everybody else had pajamas on, so it didn't matter. In this little book called Habakkuk, in chapter 3, verses 1 through 4, different kinds of handshakes. I'm going to be talking about God's hands this evening. How about the fist bump? How many do that? You do a fist bump? Kind of like it. Why do we, sometimes we do that because we don't get the germs. Right? Isn't that true? Like, you never know where those things been. So there's the fist bump. There's the dead fish. You shake somebody's hand, they're going like, yeah. The dead fish shake. The lobster claw. Yeah. Sure. The bone crusher. And then I like this one really. This just really means I really like you. Kind of double thing, You ever have somebody do that? I mean, and they look you right in the eye and they said, it might surprise you, but God has hands as well. We don't think of God as having hands sometimes. We think of God as more like a spirit and this mysterious form or being. But the Bible tells us that God has hands. And, that's the gas pump hand. All right? Forgot that one. Yeah. In this little book, if you go to Matthew and you turn left by about 5 books, you'll find this little book of Habakkuk. O Lord, I have heard your speech and was afraid. O Lord, revive your work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make it known. In wrath, remember mercy. This guy was different than most of the prophets. This guy actually wanted God to come and destroy the world. He was so mad about how bad things have got. They said, just come on. Just come on. Just let's have World War III. Let's just get it over with. Let's let North Korea come and explode their bomb over us and get rid of us. And this guy was kind of like that. He was just so mad at how bad things have gotten that he's like, oh, God, just get it over with. God came from Teman, the Holy One from Mount Paran. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And here's what I'm getting to. His brightness was like the light, and he had rays flashing from his hand. Can you imagine that? Rays flashing out of your hand. And there his power was hidden. Where's God's power hidden? In his hands. That's what he says right there. And there his power was hidden. He had rays flashing from his hand. God, it tells me, has a hand. Here's the thing about God's hands. They're a place, number one, of majesty and power. When Habakkuk had a vision of God, that is how he saw God. He saw God with these hands, and he saw rays of lightning coming out of the hands of God. Isaiah said it this way. He said, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his what? His hand. Measured heaven with a span and calculated the dust of the earth in a measure. Weighed the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance. God is full of power and majesty. He's got lightning coming from his hands. David declared this. He said, you have a mighty, not only does he have hands, but if you're going to have hands, what else you got to have? You got to have arms. You got to have arms because your arms got to hold the hand. Strong is your hand and high is your right hand. Moses said it this way. He said, your right hand, O Lord, has become glorious in power. Your right hand, O Lord, has dashed the enemies in pieces. And in Chronicles it says, both riches and honor come from you. You reign over all. In your hand is power and might. Your hand is to make great and to give strength to all. Secondly, his hands are a place of loving intervention. The hands of God are always ready to come down and take us from where we are. God sees everything. You have also given me the shield of your salvation. Your right hand has held me up. Your gentleness has made me great. You enlarged my path under me so that, and it says here in Psalms 37, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with what? His hand. I'm glad that God's got hands. I'm glad that God has these really strong arms. And thirdly, God's hands are a place of discipline. We might not want to talk about this one so much, but sometimes God allows you to go through some kind of discipline. Many of us tonight are suffering some form of discipline in our life. And it's not because God doesn't like you. Really, it's because God loves you. Parents, ever got spanked by your parents? Yeah. My dad used to say, boy, this is going to hurt you worse than me. And I said, I don't think so. I'm not buying that one. I am not buying that one. Sometimes trouble or hardship is an indication of God's hand in our lives. Sometimes when we're going through the hardest spots in life, we can feel God closer to us than other times. It seems odd that it's that way, but sometimes when things are really good, we almost wonder where God's at. But then when we are falling and we're hanging on, remember the guy was hanging over the edge of the cliff, he had fallen and he was holding on to a little branch and he looked up into the sky and he said, God, help me. And a big voice came out of the sky and it said, let go of the branch. And the guy said, is there anybody else up there? Right? Sometimes God says, let go, right? Let go in what? Let God, right? Psalmist David said this, when I kept silent. And one of the things that we come to these services for is so that we can, this is what we call a safe place. A friend of mine said, Ironton didn't need another church, but what Ironton did need is a safe place for people to come to. Don't you feel safe here? You see, you can come here and you can talk about your problems. You can talk about your burdens. And we're okay with it because we realize there's no perfect people here. We're all broken people. We've all fallen short of God's expectation of perfection. And he says here, when I kept silent, when I didn't say anything, my bones grew old through my groaning all day long. For day and night, your hand was heavy upon me. You ever feel God's hand just really heavy upon you, pushing down on you and saying, you're going the wrong direction. I'm not going to let you go. It's not going to be that easy for you. Because God puts his hand on you and he stops you sometimes. At least he tries his best to stop you from self-destruction. David said, your hand was heavy upon me. My vitality was turned into drought, to the drought of summer. I acknowledged my sin to you. In other words, I kept silent. Then what did he decide to do? Verse 5, to talk about it, to tell God about it. And he says, and my equity I have not hidden. He said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord. He was keeping quiet. What happened? His bones were growing old. He become very achy in his system, in his self. He felt like an old man. And then he said, I decided that it might be better for me to tell God about it. And he said, and when I did, he said, things got a lot better for me. And it will get better for you. Fifthly, God's hands are a place not only of discipline, but they're a place of fulfillment. God's hands are a place of fulfillment. When we begin to put our lives in God's hands, we get a fulfillment that we would otherwise never know. We've got this God-shaped vacuum in our life. And we go through life trying to put things into it. Sex, things, drugs, or alcohol, rock and roll. E. Stanley Jones said this. He said, anything less than God will always let you down. Amen. If it's drugs, if it's alcohol, if it's rock and roll, whatever it is, it's going to let you down. The hand of the Lord was with them, and a great number believed, and they turned to the Lord. Here's some uses for the hands. Blessing. We can use our hands to we lay hands on people here and we bless them. Prayer blessing. There's you ever had somebody put their hand on your back? And they say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Maybe it's not going to be okay, but at least it makes you feel better that they've done that. They put their hand on it. It's going to be okay. And you're thinking, you don't have a clue what I'm talking about. You don't have a clue what I'm going through. But they pat you on the back and they say it's going to be okay. And a lot of times, it's going to be okay. It really is. It's going to be okay. The thing is, are you trusting or are you trying? Do you see the difference between those two things? Are you trusting or are you trying? If I'm trying, I'm not trusting. You understand that? It's when I stop trying and I say, okay, God, I give up. And I let go of that branch. And now I've got to trust. So when I stop trying and I start trusting, you'll see then God will begin to work in your life. You'll begin to feel the mighty hand of God upon you. And you'll feel better. You'll feel a fulfillment. You'll feel happier. There's a hand of direction. You ever feel like, man, I need to talk to somebody. I need to talk to my pastor. I need to talk to my counselor. I need to talk to my sponsor about this. Because I need some direction. Man, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad week. I'm having a bad month. I need to talk to somebody that can help me with some direction in my life. Isn't it good to have somebody that you can talk to? And they can put a hand of direction on you. They can help you. They can at least give you a nice suggestion about something you can do. There's a hand of affection. We like that around here. We like to show affection. Man, you're going through this life one time. Why not love each other? Why not love each other? Why not show that you love each other? Why not say, man, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm thankful that you're in my life. I'm happy that you're here. I like that kind of environment. I really do. I like that. I like a hand of direction, a hand of affection. And you know what? When I get to heaven, and I didn't say if, I'm saying when I get to heaven, man, I want to see those hands of the Lord Jesus Christ. And I know that when I see them, and there's still going to be some holes in those hands because He died on the cross for me many years ago. And when He was on the cross, those hands of God, you and I, we were on His mind. He did that for you. He did that for me. He loves you like that. He is a loving God. He is an affectionate God. He has strong arms and mighty hands. And He can make you fulfilled. He can make you a happy person. He can give you all the desires of your heart if you'll just let Him. You want to let Him tonight? Let's stand together.